Hey there, I'm Kat, and this is Brews and Reviews. No, immediately dropped all the books. Tried to put them up for the thumbnail. Now they're all on the floor, where they will stay. At the beginning of this year, I decided I was going to split my reading wrap-ups into videos called 10 in 2023, where I wrapped up the last 10 books that I read in 2023. And you may have noticed that there's not been one of those for a little while, and that is because it hasn't really worked out for me. I set that plan into place so that I would have less routine and less structure to the channel, and I would feel less constricted, and it turns out, as an autistic person, I like routine, and routine helps me actually be productive and consistent. Who would have thought? Everyone. Literally everyone would have thought that. So in this video, I'm going to try and do quick-fire wrap-ups of all the books that I have read up to the end of July. There's quite a few, so I will try and be as quick and concise as possible. It will probably help that some of these are from May, so I don't really have the best memory of them. So let's just get into this before I ramble some more and this video is even longer than it's probably going to be. So first up we have volumes 1, 2 and 3 of Lumberjanes, which is a graphic novel series about a group of girls who go to this summer camp, and there are sort of weird supernaturally type things happening in the summer camp. It reminded me a lot of Gravity Falls, so if you did like that show then it is kind of like that, but it is kind of middle grade, and I don't think the seriousness and the development was kind of there for me. This series is kind of one that I'm going to be picking up because it's on Kindle Unlimited. If I had to buy these graphic novels, I probably wouldn't continue with this series, and I rated them all 3 out of 5 stars. Next up we have Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This book was a 4.5 star read for me. It's a romance book about a woman who is sort of estranged from her family, but she's invited back to be the photographer for her sister's wedding, and she ends up falling for the bride's best friend Claire, and it's a sapphic love story, and it's just really cute. I really like the dynamic between all of the characters. I do think that the reason that the family are estranged and their relationships are quite hard to read because it's not really a pleasant family dynamic, but I did enjoy it and I did like all of the characters, and I definitely want to read more by this author. The next book I picked up is called The Perfect Play. This one was included in my Audible subscription. It was a cute small sports romance. The male main character is in a football team, I believe. He's in an American sports team. That's yes. Let's just leave it at that. And the main female character, her brother is in the same team, and then they end up seeing each other. It was cute. It was impossibly quick and very underdeveloped, but I think that's kind of the point. It was a very, very short, like, novella. It was fine. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I picked up was called The Breakup Artist, and this is about a disabled woman who writes letters to break up with people. She has a website where people can send in letters and say, listen, I really want to break up with this person. Can you write me a letter to break up with this person? And she's quite scathing. It's anonymous. She can just sort of say whatever she wants and be as harsh as she wants. And in this book, she actually has to confront what some of those letters do as she meets someone that she broke up with via the letter. There's also a setting up your own business plot line that happens with her and a couple of her friends, and I found that really interesting. Overall, I really liked the book. My only problem with it was that her dad is kind of ridiculous, and I don't think he really understands other people's feelings, so whenever he was involved in the thing, I was like, just engage brain, please, because understanding other people's feelings is not that hard. I ended up giving that one 4 out of 5 stars. So next up we have Quest for Lost Heroes by David Gemmell. This is obviously a book by my favourite author. It's the next book in my David Gemmell project. I have filmed a review, so that will be up soon because I've started editing it. I know I always say it will be up soon, but it will be up soon, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it in this video. This one is about a group of retired legendary warriors who go on a quest to save someone who has been taken by slavers, and it has some great nods to other books in the Jedi series. It's a really good book. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I picked up was A Vineyard Valentine by Nina Bocci, and this one is another included in your Audible subscription quick read. It's about a woman who is running a vineyard with her business partners, and they decide to host a Valentine's event, but she's not really happy about it because she's been very unlucky in love. So they decide to host 2 separate Valentine's events, one where people who are all loved up can go and enjoy Valentine's romance, and one that's like an anti-romance party, and everyone just gets drunk because vineyards. This one I would say is more like a meet cute kind of story, and that's about all that you get in it, but that's fine because it is very short and I knew that going into it, so I give this one 3 out of 5 stars. Next up I picked up We Free the Stars by Hafsa Faisal. I read this one as a buddy read with Kayla from Crack Into a Good Book, and this is the sequel to We Hunt the Flame, which is a book that I kind of enjoyed in 2020, and I never read the sequel to it, and we thought we would read the sequel to it now. and I ended up DNFing it. Quite honestly, I got to about 135 pages and I just couldn't push myself to read it anymore because nothing had happened. The characters spend the whole time just whining and pining for each other when they could just have like a conversation, communicate with each other, do literally anything, and I just think it was too slow burn for me. I can understand there are a lot of people that really enjoy this like slow development fantasy thing. It's just, I feel like we had really high stakes and we were just doing absolutely nothing for that entire 130 pages, and the book is over 500 pages long, and I'm just like, what was the need? I don't know. So I ended up DNFing it because I really couldn't push myself through, and that's that. Next up I read Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. I read this book in January and I've already read it again, so that's great. It's a very cozy fantasy about an orc who gives up her life of adventuring to open up a coffee shop in a small town that's never heard of coffee. And it's very cute, it's very found family. I've talked about this book loads, 5 out of 5 stars. Next up we have Rosalind Palmer Takes the Cake by Alexis Hall. This book is a romance contemporary that is basically the Great British Bake Off, but with like all of the naughty bits still kept in. It was laugh out loud funny, and I have immediately put Alexis Hall on my auto buy list, and I need to read their backlist because I have to. I think some of it was a little bit predictable, but it was fun and I just really had a good time with it, and I would definitely recommend this if you enjoy Bake Off. Also, there's a lot of queer representation in here that's really done well, and I can't recommend it enough, so 5 out of 5 stars. Next up I picked up Return to Shelter Beach, which is an audiobook that I also picked up on Audible's free subscription thingy. This was like an audio drama, so it had like noises and sound effects and stuff like that, and I honestly think this one would have been a really good film. And when I say that, I don't mean a really good film. What I mean is a film that you watch when you're just like, I just want to turn my brain off, and watch people have minor disruptances to their life and then have to get on, move along with their life, and a bit of romance. I don't know, it's a Hallmark film, really. This is what I'm getting from this. It's Hallmark film. But it wasn't the best book ever, but it was fun enough, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I picked up was The Bromance Book Club by Lyssa Kay Adams. This book is about a couple called Gavin and Thea who are potentially splitting up. And Gavin plays for a team. A bunch of his teammates approach him and say, hey, hang on a second, we have got a solution for you that might help you win her back, if you want to win her back. And he very much does want to win her back. So their solution is to read romance books and try out the things that happen in romance books to actually understand women, pretty much. I think it's a really fun premise. I just feel like second chance romance isn't really for me without like... I'll give them second chance romance if there's like enemies to lovers, if that makes sense. Like, I want them to really hate each other and then end up in a situation where they come back together, whereas this is kind of like, we might break up. I feel like we're gonna break up and it's very sad, but I'll try and romance you again, and that really wasn't for me. So I think that kind of affected my enjoyment of it. But if you like second chance romance, then you'll definitely enjoy this book. I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars because it was good. I just feel like it couldn't be higher for me because of what I've already said. Then next up I picked up The Last Precinct by Patricia Cornwell. This is a book in the Case Carpenter series. I want to say book 10, book 11 at this point. I don't know. I thought we'd resolved the last plotline in the last book, but no, it continued in this one, and the book before this one was not my favorite book. So I did struggle with this one a lot, and I really did struggle with the main character in this one. I think sometimes when Kay is in trouble or struggling with something, she becomes a really judgy bitch, and then she goes, oh, but I'm good, I'm a woman in top of my field, and then she's like slagging other women off, and I'm like, Kay, no. She's also kind of a horrible friend, and like her friend Captain Marino, who's a police officer, is also very problematic, and he's kind of an asshole too. Basically everyone in this book is kind of an asshole, and the problem that I had with that one and why this is rated 3 out of 5 stars and couldn't really be any higher is because there isn't actually very much casework in this one. I come to a Case Carpenter book to solve the crime. That's what I'm interested in. I'm less interested in the personal dramas, and that's very much what is happening with these at the moment, so I'm really hoping that they kind of come back to her actually doing things, like being a medical examiner, which is her job. This one very prominently featured a court case, and I wasn't really very interested in that. This one was 3 out of 5 stars, and it was fine. So next up, from one 3.5 star book to another, it's Furyborn by Claire Legrand. Now this is a book I really thought I was gonna like, and I didn't. I buddy read this one with Kayla from Crack Into a Good Book, and I just found that it was kind of dull. I wanted to be interested, and there were some really interesting things about this book, but I just didn't get gripped at all. I think it was really difficult because there are two different plot lines in this book, and one of them was interesting if not repetitive, and the other one had a main character that was insufferable and I hated her. So while interesting things were happening to her, I found it really hard to care because she was just throwing people under the bus and making stupid decisions, and I'm like, this is infuriating. So this book is a sort of dual timeline book about two women who are connected by this sort of prophecy about two queens, one which will destroy the world and one that will save the world. And I don't really know how to describe this book except to say that it reminded me of the Tealing series by Erica Johansson, and that is a book that had a lot of promise for me but didn't connect, and then the end ruined it, and I just feel it had very, very similar vibes. So if you like the Tealing series, then you probably will like Furyborn. It's just really doesn't work for me, so I'm not going to continue with this series. Now on to a lighter note, I read a book called Hide and Spank. Yeah. This book is by Kitty Hartford and is about a group of people in a BDSM club who have a Christmas party, and they sort of all just like run around this mansion. If one of the people who is hiding gets caught by one of the people who's seeking, then the seeker can do some not hand clapping. So that's kind of the premise of it, but it's like really odd because there's somebody else there that isn't supposed to be there, and they're running around dressed as Krampus, and I feel like it had an interesting idea, but if you were actually living what was happening in this book, it would be a horror movie, because who is this guy that's running around spanking all the people? I just... no. So I gave that one 3 out of 5 stars, because it wasn't awful, but it really wasn't good. So next up I read Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire. This was a reread for me. It's set in a home for children who have returned from portal worlds and would really like to go back to their portal worlds. And there's also like a murder mystery plotline. I haven't read this book in a while, and I've realised that I'm very far behind on this series now. So I thought I'll pick this up and maybe start reading these books again and maybe get back into it, because I'm very intrigued as to where this series has gone as of this point. I do tend to prefer the darker books in this series, and I forgot the whole Halls of the Dead storyline that is in this book, and that is undoubtedly my favourite bit of this book. How did it slip out of my mind? I don't know. But I just love that, and yeah, I was just really happy to see Nancy and the Halls of the Dead again, and I was like, yes, this is great. So I really enjoyed this one, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Next up I read Felix Ever After by Kason Calendar. This book is about Felix, who's trans, and one day goes into school and his dead name has been like outed to his school, and there is a lot of transphobia that is mentioned in this book, so it is very hard-hitting and like difficult to read in parts, but there's also a lot of queer positivity stuff in here as well. Felix is questioning his identity and trying to figure out if trans is really the label that he most associates with, so that's really interesting to read about. And I also think that there's a really nice theme of realizing that you do deserve to be loved. I mean, I feel like that seems like something that we should all know, but it's not, so I think it's really nice the way that it's done in this book, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next up, I did 2 buddy reads with Abby from Abby Lisi the Book Lover, and they were Cress by Marissa Meyer and Ferris by Marissa Meyer. So Cress is book 3 and Ferris is 3.5 in the Lunar Chronicles series. These are a series of sci-fi fairy tale retellings. Cress is a Rapunzel retelling, and Ferris is sort of the villain story. So kind of like the evil queen from Snow White's story. I absolutely adore Cress. It might be my favourite book in the series. It's been so long since I've read Winter though, I'm not actually sure if I prefer that one or not, so we'll find out soon. But I absolutely love Cress and Thorn, who are the 2 main characters in this. There is a lot of other stuff going on with the other characters from the previous books, but I just really love Cress and Thorn. Maybe I just love a Rapunzel retelling. I just really had a fun time with it. There was so much that I'd forgotten, and it was a lot darker than I remember it being, particularly towards the end, but I love them. Sorry, you're not going to get actually constructive review from me here, because this is like a nostalgic, fun, I just love them type of reaction. Sorry about it. Now for Ferris, that is a very dark book. Now Queen Lavana is very much living in her delusions, her fictions of her own making, and she does some very twisted things to people, particularly her husband. Yeah, I won't spoil it, but it's very twisted. How she justifies all of her actions and how she thinks she's doing the right thing. So it's a really interesting one to read, and I'm glad that I have read it this time before winter. I read it after winter last time, and I kind of wish I had done it in reverse, so I think this is a good way to read it. I gave that one 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read From Romeo to Juliet by Blue Angel. Now, there is a full review of this book in a separate video. It is a complaints with cat video, as I did not enjoy this book. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, but it was wild, and I've said I didn't enjoy it, but it was very entertaining, just not necessarily in a good way. I think you probably just have to go and watch that review. It is age restricted because it is explicit, let's say, and it is me reacting to what's happening in the book, but it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling with fae and sex stuff. It's very unhinged, and I feel bad about not enjoying it. And maybe that review will make you want to read this book, maybe it will. I don't know. Then next up, I read 9 books in a manga series called Flying Witch by Chihiro Ishizuka. This is a sort of slice of life book about a witch who leaves home and goes to live with her cousins so that she can sort of get a wider view of the world and start training in her magic. It's very cute. There are cats. There are very cute creatures just running around doing magical stuff. Not much happens in each of these volumes, and I just really enjoy it though because it's very cozy and calm and relaxing and just fun. I don't know, I don't know how to describe it. It's just fun. I think I rated 8 out of 9 of them 4 stars, and I rated one of them 3.5 stars. I think it was volume 3. There's like an unnecessary dieting storyline for just one part of one of the volumes. I didn't see the point of, I didn't think it fit with anything else, so I just rate that one slightly lower, but all of the rest of them, very fun, very cute, very relaxing, and I still have more to read in this series, so I'm going to. And wow, would you look at that, we're on the last book that I'm going to wrap up for this video. And if you made it this far into the video, I would really love it if you could tell me that you did, because I doubt anyone's going to see this review, even though it's one of the best books that I'm going to be talking about in this wrap-up. So let me know if you made it to this part in the video by leaving me a science emoji, because we are talking about Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This book is maybe my favourite of the Ali Hazelwood books. It's about a woman called Elsie who is trying to get a job in a specific university, and her job interview process. She's currently doing a lot of different things to make money, and she's diabetic in America, so healthcare would be great, and she's really trying to get this job. The only problem is that one of the people on the staff of the university where she's trying to get a job is someone she hates. Now, I really like Elsie, and I like the journey that she goes on, but Jack, the main male character in this book, is just a walking green flag. While he does some things that are like a little bit questionable, you can kind of understand why he does them, but his emotional sensitivity is just like, wow. I love it. The way that he communicates is really fantastic, and I just really appreciated reading about it, and I think that it was a really good one. And I just really enjoyed reading about good communication, because while Elsie struggles with it, Jack was like, no, hang on, let's talk about this. Tell me what you want, use your words, and we'll figure out what is actually going on here. And I just really love them. I'm definitely going to reread this one at some point in the future. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was great. Now, with that said, those are all the books that I read from like half of May, all of June, and July. So now we're caught up, and I'm going to be going back to monthly reading wrap-ups, because that worked far better for me on a consistency level, and I'm just going back to it because there's a reason that people do monthly wrap-ups, because they work, and I failed with my little experiment, but it was good to try, I suppose. It was a good effort to try. I'm so looking forward to going back to monthly wrap-ups, so please. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!